I'm standing in the hospital bathroom, my hands shaking so bad I can barely hold my phone. The message on the screen is from my attorney, and I've read it 4 times now, but the words still don't make sense. Ashley, your husband has liquidated your joint accounts, all of them. $847,000 in savings, gone. He filed for divorce yesterday without your knowledge. You need to come to my office immediately. I sink onto the closed toilet seat and stare at the beige tile floor. 48 hours ago, I was in surgery. A routine procedure, nothing serious, but they wanted to keep me overnight for observation. Michael kissed my forehead in pre-op and said he'd be back after work. He never showed up. When I called, he said he fell asleep. Now I understand. He wasn't asleep. He was draining our life. But here's the thing that really gets me. The part that makes my stomach turn even now. I inherited $35 million from my grandmother 6 months ago. $35 million. And Michael didn't know about the bulk of it yet. My attorney had been setting up a family trust, keeping most of it separate. The only reason I'm not completely destroyed is because my grandmother's lawyers were paranoid enough to structure everything in a way that protected me, even from myself, even from him. Let me back up. My name is Ashley, and until 3 days ago, I had the kind of life that made my college friends jealous. Not because I was rich, not yet, but because I had found what I thought was real. Michael and I met at Northwestern junior year. He was in my biology lab, the kind of guy who made you forget to take notes. Tall, dark hair, the sort of smile that made you believe in second chances, even though you'd never done anything wrong. We got married 8 years ago. It was a small ceremony in my parents' backyard in Evanston, just family and close friends. My mom cried. His mom, Karen, criticized the caterer. It was perfect in that messy, real way. We bought a house in Naperville in 2019, a 3-bedroom colonial with a 2-car garage and white shutters. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. A $420,000 mortgage that we both worked to pay down. I'm a graphic designer, freelance mostly, bringing in decent money. Michael works, or worked, I still don't know if he quit, as a financial analyst for a consulting firm in Chicago. He made good money. We made good money together. Our life was the kind you see in movies about normal people. Sunday mornings at Panera, a golden retriever named Duke, my parents over for Thanksgiving, Michael's mom complaining about the gravy. We had dinner parties. We took a vacation to Cancun every other year. We were the couple people invited to things. And then my grandmother died. She passed away last April, quietly, in her sleep at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. She was 92 and had lived a full life, traveled the world, outlived 2 husbands, spoiled all of us grandchildren rotten. Her funeral was in Lake Forest. There were probably 200 people there. I gave a eulogy. Michael held my hand. The reading of the will happened 3 weeks later. Her attorney, a stern woman named Patricia Voss, sat across from me in her office on Michigan Avenue. Michael wanted to come, but I told him to wait in the car. Something in my gut said this was just for me. I've never been good at listening to my gut. But that one time, thank God, I did. Your grandmother's estate is valued at approximately $47 million, Patricia said, sliding a folder across her mahogany desk. The bulk of it, $35 million, is designated for you, Ashley, in trust, with specific conditions. I remember laughing. I actually laughed. It seemed absurd. My grandmother was comfortable, sure, but I had no idea she was that comfortable. The conditions are important, Patricia continued. Your grandmother was very specific. She wants this money protected. She stipulated that you cannot access more than $500,000 per year without written consent from the trustee, that's me, for the next 5 years. She also included a clause that if you divorce or separate from your spouse, the trust becomes irrevocable and personal property. Your husband cannot touch it under any circumstances. I nodded, not fully understanding then what that meant. Now I understand perfectly. My grandmother, who I visited every Sunday for lunch, who I brought homemade brownies to, who asked me 1,000 questions about my marriage, she knew something I didn't. Or maybe she was just careful. Either way, she saved me. I didn't tell Michael the full amount. I know that sounds strange, but when I got home that day, when I walked in and he asked how it went, something stopped me. some small voice that said, "Keep this close." "She left me a couple million," I said. "It's going into a trust. Patricia is handling it all." He didn't push. He just kissed my temple and said, "Your grandmother was a good woman." I put the trust paperwork in a safe deposit box at Chase. I didn't mention it again. For 6 months, our life continued exactly as it was. The same house, the same routines, the same version of Michael who brought me coffee in bed on Saturday mornings and complained about his boss and watched football on Sundays. But I guess something shifts when you're keeping a secret. Or maybe nothing shifted. Maybe he was always waiting for his moment. Last month, I started feeling tired. Not normal tired, bone tired, dizzy sometimes. I'd be at my desk working on a logo and suddenly need to lie down. I went to my OB/GYN and she ordered some tests. Turned out I had a fibroid, benign but large enough that it was affecting my iron levels and my quality of life. The surgery was scheduled for this week. "It's minor," Dr. Reeves told me. "Minimally invasive. You'll be home the next day, and you'll feel like a new person." Michael seemed supportive. He arranged time off work. He said he'd take care of everything while I recovered. He packed my hospital bag and drove me to Northwestern Medical Center on Tuesday morning. We checked in at 6 a.m. I remember the smell of the hospital, that specific antiseptic smell that makes you feel small and vulnerable. "I love you," he said before they wheeled me back. "I love you too," I said, and I meant it. Even now, even knowing what I know, I meant it in that moment. The surgery was at 7:30 a.m. Everything went smoothly. I was in recovery by 10. By noon, I was in my room, drowsy from anesthesia, watching the trees outside my window and thinking about ice cream. Dr. Reeves came by around 2 and said everything looked good. They wanted to keep me overnight just to monitor my pain levels. "Your husband can stay if you'd like," the nurse said, but he didn't. He said he had to handle something at work. He'd be back that evening. He'd bring me dinner. He never came back. I called his cell around 6. It went to voicemail. I called again at 7. Voicemail. At 8, I called the office. The security guard said Michael had left around 3 p.m. and hadn't returned. By midnight, I was alone in my hospital room, sore and scared, and telling myself that something had happened. An accident. A family emergency. Something that would explain why my husband wasn't here while I was recovering from surgery. At 7 a.m., there was a knock on my door. A hospital administrator, a man named Robert Chen, came in with a strange expression on his face. "Miss Patterson, we have a situation. Your insurance company has flagged your account. It appears your coverage was terminated yesterday. We need to discuss payment arrangements." "Terminated?" I felt cold. "That doesn't make sense. Michael handles—" I stopped. I didn't finish that sentence. "I need to make a phone call," I told Robert. I called Michael's cell. This time, he answered. "Ash, hey, how are you feeling?" His voice was calm, normal, like nothing was wrong. "Where are you?" I asked. "I'm at home. Why?" "Why haven't you come to the hospital? And why is my insurance terminated?" There was a pause, a long one. "Look, we need to talk about some things. When you get out, we'll—" I hung up on him. That's when I called Patricia. That's when everything fell apart. Now I'm sitting in this hospital bathroom, and there's a knock on the door. A nurse asking if I'm okay. "I'm fine," I call back, my voice steady even though I'm not. But I'm not fine, and I'm about to find out that my marriage was built on a foundation that dissolved the moment I closed my eyes under anesthesia. I walk out of that bathroom like a ghost. My legs don't feel like mine. The nurse at the station looks up from her computer, and I must look like hell because her expression changes immediately. "Miss Patterson, do you need something?" "I need to be discharged," I say. My voice sounds strange, detached. "Right now." "You just had surgery yesterday. Dr. Reeves said—" I don't care what she said, I'm leaving. I don't wait for permission. I go back to my room, peel off the hospital gown, and pull on the clothes I wore in. Everything smells like antiseptic and betrayal. My phone buzzes. Patricia, my attorney. I don't answer. I can't talk to anyone yet. If I open my mouth, I'll scream, and I don't think I'll be able to stop. The Uber ride home takes 23 minutes. I know because I watched the clock the entire way, unable to look at anything else. The driver tries to make small talk. I don't respond. He stops trying after 2 minutes. When I pull up to the house, our house, the white colonial with the shutters, I almost don't recognize it. It looks like a stranger's house now. The driveway is empty. Michael's BMW is gone. Of course it is. I sit in the Uber for another minute, my hand on the door handle, gathering the strength to move. "You good?" the driver asks. "No," I tell him, "but I will be." The house is silent when I walk in. Duke comes running, jumping up on me like he always does, and I collapse against him, my fingers in his fur, and I finally let myself cry. Just for a minute, just until I can breathe again. Then I text Patricia, "I'm coming to your office. When can you see me?" The response comes back in seconds. "Now. Come now." Her office is on Michigan Avenue, in the same building where she first told me about my grandmother's trust. The elevator ride up feels longer than it should. When I walk into her reception area, I'm still in my hospital discharge clothes. I probably look insane. Patricia takes one look at me and pulls me into a conference room, closes the door, and sits me down. Patricia Voss is 67, with steel gray hair and reading glasses on a beaded chain. She's the kind of woman who doesn't waste time on pleasantries when someone is bleeding. "Tell me everything," she says. So I do. I tell her about the message from the hospital, about calling Michael, about the insurance, about the way his voice sounded so calm when I knew everything was falling apart. Patricia listens without interrupting, her pen moving across a legal pad. When I finish, she sets the pen down and removes her glasses. "Michael filed for divorce yesterday while you were in surgery," she says slowly. "He cleaned out your joint accounts, $847,000, and then terminated your health insurance. That's not stupidity, Ashley. That's a calculated move." "How is that even legal?" My voice cracks. "How can he just take money that's ours?" "It's technically not legal, but he was betting you wouldn't find out immediately. If you'd been unconscious for another day, if you'd waited to call him, he would have had more time to move money around, hide assets, establish a narrative." Patricia stands up and walks to her window. "He's been planning this." "Planning it? For how long?" "That's what we need to find out." She turns back to me. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Did Michael ever ask you about the full amount your grandmother left you?" I think back. 6 months of conversations. 6 months of normal life. I told him it was a couple million. He never pushed. I didn't tell him about the trust structure or the $35 million figure. Patricia nods, like this confirms something she already suspected. "Then he filed for divorce based on incomplete information. He knows you have money, but he doesn't know how much, and he doesn't know that most of it is protected from him by irrevocable trust law." "So what does that mean?" "It means you're going to be fine, financially. But it also means that when he discovers what he doesn't know, he's going to be very, very angry." A chill runs through me. I hadn't thought about that, about Michael finding out that his plan failed, about what that might make him do. "What do I do?" I ask. "First, you don't go home. Not tonight, not alone." Patricia is already on her phone. "I'm calling a divorce attorney I know, someone sharp, someone who's handled cases like this before, cases where a spouse has committed marital fraud and financial abandonment. You're going to need representation." "I can't afford—" "You can afford anything you want, Ashley. That's the point. Your grandmother made sure of that." Patricia's voice is firm. "Now, is there someone you can stay with? A friend? Family?" I think about my parents in Evanston. My mom would have 1,000 questions. My dad would want to call Michael and demand answers. And then there's Michael's mother, Karen, who I've been trying to get along with for 8 years. "My best friend Jennifer," I say. "She's in the city. Call her. Don't tell her the details yet. Just say you need a place to stay for a few days and that you can't go home." I pull out my phone with shaking hands and dial Jennifer's number. She answers on the 3rd ring. "Ash? Hey, what's up?" "Jen, I need—" I need to come stay with you, just for a few days, can I? There's a pause. Jennifer's smart. She knows me well enough to hear that something is very wrong. Of course. When? Now? I'll pick you up. Where are you? Michigan Avenue. I'm at my attorney's office. Another pause. A longer one. Oh my God, Ashley, what happened? I'll tell you when I see you, I say, and I hang up before I can fall apart completely. Patricia spends the next hour with me going through documents. She pulls up the trust on her computer, shows me the protection clauses, explains that Michael cannot legally claim any portion of the trust funds, even in a divorce settlement. She also explains that the house, the colonial in Naperville with the white shutters, is a marital asset, which means he's entitled to 50% of the equity. That's roughly $210,000, she says. You can buy him out or you can sell it. Either way, you'll need to negotiate. I don't want to negotiate with him. I want him out of my life. I know, but the law doesn't care what we want. What it cares about is a fair division of marital property and a determination of support if applicable. Patricia closes her laptop. Now here's what happens next. I'm going to connect you with David Chen. He's aggressive, he's smart, and he's handled cases where spouses have tried to hide assets or commit fraud. You're going to meet with him tomorrow. In the meantime, you do not contact Michael. You do not go home. You do not agree to anything he says. What if he tries to contact me? Tell him to speak to your attorney. That's David. Any communication goes through David from now on. Is that clear? Yes, I whisper. My phone buzzes. A text from Michael. We need to talk. Please call me. I show it to Patricia. She takes a photo of it with her phone. Don't respond, she says. Forward this to David. That's evidence of his awareness that you're upset. Every message from him is now part of the record. Jennifer arrives 30 minutes later. She takes one look at me and doesn't ask questions. She just wraps her arms around me and holds me while I shake. Her apartment is in a high-rise in River North, with a view of the Chicago skyline that used to seem beautiful. Tonight, it just looks cold. Talk to me, she says once we're inside, once I'm sitting on her couch with a cup of tea I won't drink. So I tell her, all of it. The surgery, the voicemail, the attorney's message, the insurance, the divorce filing, the money, everything. And when I finish, Jennifer just stares at me. I'm going to kill him, she says finally. Get in line, I say. My phone buzzes again. Michael. Ashley, please, let me explain. You're upset and you don't understand the whole situation. I turn the phone off. I can't hear his voice, not even through text. Not yet. That night, I lie in Jennifer's guest room and stare at the ceiling, and I realize something that makes my stomach turn. Michael didn't just leave me in the hospital. He left me while I was most vulnerable, while I was incapable of defending myself or my interests. He did it on purpose. He timed it. And that means he knew exactly what he was doing. The question is, what else does he know? What else has he been planning? My phone is off, but it's sitting on the nightstand, and I keep staring at it like it might detonate. Tomorrow, I meet with David Chen. Tomorrow, I start fighting back. But tonight, I'm still just trying to figure out how the man I loved could have done this to me. How the version of Michael who kissed my forehead before surgery is the same man who drained our accounts while I was unconscious. I don't fall asleep. I lie awake until the sun comes up and the city lights fade, and I watch the sky turn from black to gray to pink, and I make a decision. He wanted a war. He's about to get one, and this time, I'm not going to be the one lying down. David Chen's office is in a steel and glass tower in the Loop, the kind of place where the air conditioning is so cold it makes you shiver. I sit across from him the next morning, still wearing yesterday's hospital discharge clothes, and he's already 3 steps ahead of me. He's an idiot, David says, not looking up from the documents Patricia sent over. A smart idiot, but an idiot nonetheless. David is 42, Korean-American, with the kind of controlled fury you only get from 15 years of divorce law. His corner office overlooks Lake Michigan, and I can see the water from where I'm sitting, calm and indifferent to my problems. Walk me through the timeline, he says. Everything. Don't leave anything out. I do. I tell him about the surgery, the voicemail, the insurance termination, the divorce filing. I tell him about the trust, about what Patricia explained. David takes notes, his pen moving fast. The $847,000 he liquidated, David says, that was from joint accounts? Yes, our savings account, a money market account, some investments. Good, that's theft, marital abandonment, fraud, because he did it without your consent while you were incapacitated. David leans back in his chair. He also filed for divorce without notifying you, which violates Illinois procedure. And terminating your insurance while you're hospitalized? That could be interpreted as intentional infliction of emotional distress. My throat tightens. Hearing it said out loud, in legal terms, makes it real in a different way. What do I do? I ask. First, we file a counterclaim. We're not just defending against his divorce petition. We're going on offense. David stands up and walks to a whiteboard on his wall. He starts writing. Asset recovery. We freeze his accounts. We subpoena his employer for his financial records, his emails, anything that shows premeditation. We get the insurance company to provide documentation of who terminated your coverage and when. Can we do that? We're doing it, David says. He circles something on the board. Second, we file for a temporary restraining order, preventing him from liquidating any additional assets. Third, we send him a cease and desist letter regarding contact. Any communication with you goes through me from now on. He's already texted me. How many messages? I pull out my phone and scroll. 5 texts from Michael, each one progressively more pleading, more desperate. We need to talk. Please call me. I made a mistake. My lawyer says I shouldn't contact you, but I need you to understand. Ashley, I love you. This can all be fixed. David photographs each one with his phone. Evidence, he says. He's panicking. Good. That means he doesn't know about the trust structure. How long until he finds out? Depends. If his attorney is competent, probably within a week. Once he realizes that the bulk of your inheritance is protected and he's not getting a cent of it, he'll become either suicidal or vengeful, possibly both. David sits back down. That's when we need to be most careful. What do you mean, careful? I mean, you don't go anywhere alone. You don't engage with him, not for any reason. You don't answer the door if he shows up. You call the police if he tries to contact you in person. David's voice is steady, matter-of-fact, like he's describing the weather. I've seen men like Michael before. They plan something, it fails, and they spiral. Some disappear, some get aggressive. A cold knot forms in my stomach. Is that actually a possibility, I ask, that he'd get aggressive? It's a possibility I want you to take seriously, David says, not to scare you, but to protect you. You're going to be fine legally, but legally fine doesn't matter if you're hurt. The meeting lasts another hour. David outlines his strategy. File the counterclaim Monday, send the cease and desist Tuesday, issue the temporary restraining order request Wednesday. By Friday, Michael will know that his plan didn't work. By the following week, he'll know about the trust. When he knows, he might do nothing, David says. He might accept his losses and try to negotiate a reasonable settlement. Or he might lose his mind. We prepare for both. I leave his office feeling something shift inside me. Fear, yes, but also anger. Pure, clarifying anger. Jennifer picks me up from the loop. She's been amazing, checking in constantly, making sure I have everything I need, not pushing me to talk unless I want to. As we drive back to River North, I tell her what David said. So we're really doing this? She asks. Full scorched earth divorce? He left me in the hospital, Jen. He stole almost $1 million. He filed for divorce without telling me. I'm gripping the door handle so hard my knuckles are white. What choice do I have? None, she says simply. You do what you have to do. That night, I finally call my parents. I've been avoiding it because I know how they'll react, and I'm right. My mother cries. My father, who is usually the quiet one, gets angry in a way I've rarely heard. That son of a bitch, he says, using language that shocks me. That absolute son of a bitch. I'm coming to Chicago. We're going to... Dad, no, please. I have an attorney. I have a plan. Just, please don't come here yet. But they do anyway. They arrive at Jennifer's apartment on Friday afternoon, my mother with a casserole dish she's made, and my father with a look of pure rage. We sit in Jennifer's living room, and I explain everything: the trust, the protection clauses, David's strategy. My mother's expression shifts from devastation to something harder, more protective. My father just nods, taking it all in. He doesn't know about the full amount? My father asks. No, I didn't tell him. Smart, he says. Your grandmother was smart too. She knew something. Monday morning, David files the counterclaim. I don't hear anything from Michael that day. Tuesday, the cease and desist goes out. Silence. Wednesday, we request the temporary restraining order. Still nothing. Thursday morning, my phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize. Ms. Patterson? A woman's voice. This is Detective Sarah Martinez with the Chicago Police Department. I'm calling regarding a report filed by your husband, Michael Patterson, against you. My blood goes cold. What kind of report? I ask, though I'm already afraid I know the answer. He's filed a complaint alleging financial abuse and coercion. He claims you've been hiding assets from him and that you've cut off his access to joint accounts as a form of control. I can't speak for a moment. The audacity, the sheer audacity of it. Detective Martinez, my husband filed for divorce while I was in the hospital recovering from surgery. He liquidated our joint accounts without my consent. He terminated my health insurance. I didn't cut him off from anything. He abandoned the marriage and stole from me. I understand. We're aware of his counterclaims. I'm calling to inform you that an investigation will be opened into both allegations. We'll be reaching out to Mr. Patterson as well. In the meantime, if you feel you're in danger, please let us know. I don't feel I'm in danger, I say, though I'm not entirely sure that's true. After I hang up, I immediately call David. He filed a police report? David's tone is dangerous, controlled. That's desperation. That's a man who knows his legal position is collapsing, and he's throwing everything at the wall. What do? We document everything, every message, every interaction. We also file our own report with the police, detailing what he actually did, the theft, the fraud, the abandonment. We make sure the narrative is clear. And the restraining order? Will be approved. A judge isn't going to look at a man who stole $847,000 from his wife while she was recovering from surgery and think, yeah, that guy should have unlimited access to her. It's not happening. But I'm rattled. I don't leave Jennifer's apartment for 3 days. I check the locks obsessively. I jump at every sound. My mother sleeps in the guest room. My father sits in the living room with his laptop, reading news articles about divorce law like he might find some loophole that saves me. On Sunday, my phone buzzes. A text from Michael, sent through his attorney. I'm willing to negotiate. Call me. We can work this out. I don't respond. David sends a message back. Any negotiations will go through counsel. No direct contact. Monday morning, I get a call from Patricia Voss. Ashley, I have news, she says. Michael's attorney filed a motion requesting information about the full extent of your assets. He's claiming that you failed to properly disclose your inheritance during the marriage, and that he's entitled to discovery. My heart starts racing. What does that mean? It means he's going to find out about the $35 million, Patricia says. The question is whether he finds out through proper legal channels, which will confirm to him that it's irrevocable and he can't touch it, or whether he figures it out some other way and decides to do something stupid. I close my eyes. How long do I have? A week, maybe less. He finds out on Wednesday. I know because David calls me and tells me that Michael's attorney sent a furious email demanding an emergency hearing. The tone had changed from pleading to enraged. Michael had figured it out, either through his own investigation or through a private investigator he'd hired. He's going to try to claim the trust was created during the marriage and is therefore marital property, David explains. He'll argue that your grandmother's intention doesn't matter legally, that you failed to disclose it, that he's entitled to half. Can he win? No, but he's going to spend a lot of time and money trying, and he's going to be very, very angry. The emergency hearing is scheduled for Friday. David warns me it's going to be brutal. He's going to attack you. He's going to claim you lied to him, that you manipulated the marriage, that you've been plotting this the whole time. His goal is to rattle you, get you to say something that undermines your case. David leans forward. You're going to sit there, you're going to listen, and you're not going to react. No tears, no anger, no emotion. You let me do the talking. You answer his attorney's questions directly and briefly. That's it. Can you do that? Yes, I say, but I'm not sure it's true. Friday arrives gray and cold. I wear a dark blue suit and minimal makeup. Jennifer comes with me. My parents wait in the courthouse hallway. David meets us outside the courtroom and does a final check. Remember, he says, you're the victim here, not the perpetrator. Don't let them flip that narrative. The judge is a woman named Patricia Horowitz, early 60s, with the kind of expression that suggests she's seen every trick in the book and isn't impressed by any of them. Michael is already seated at the opposing table with his attorney, a slick guy named Robert Brennan in a $3,000 suit. Michael looks like hell. He's lost weight. His hair is longer, unkempt. There's a desperation to him that might be sad if he hadn't done what he did. His attorney speaks first. He argues that I hid a significant asset, that Michael was entitled to full disclosure, that the trust should be considered marital property, subject to equitable distribution. He frames me as deceptive, calculating, a woman who married Michael while secretly hoarding millions. Then David stands up. Your Honor, the plaintiff's argument rests on a fundamental misunderstanding of trust law. The trust in question was created by a third party, Ashley's grandmother, and explicitly structured to protect against claims by spouses or creditors. That's not hidden asset, that's protected asset. There's a legal difference. David pulls out documents, the trust agreement, the grandmother's will, all of it clearly stipulating that the money was Ashley's alone, protected from claims by any spouse. Furthermore, David continues, while Mr. Patterson claims that Ashley failed to disclose this inheritance, the reality is that she disclosed the existence of it. She simply didn't disclose the amount. And the reason she didn't disclose the amount is because her grandmother's attorney, Patricia Voss, advised her to keep that information confidential until the trust structure was finalized. That's not fraud. That's standard practice in high net worth estates. Michael's attorney tries to object, but Judge Horowitz waves him off. Let him finish, she says. David turns slightly, making sure he's addressing the judge directly. Your Honor, I want to be clear about what happened here. Mr. Patterson filed for divorce while his wife was hospitalized, recovering from surgery. He liquidated joint accounts without her consent. He terminated her health insurance. He did all of this while she was incapacitated and unable to defend herself. Then, when his scheme didn't produce the result he wanted, he filed a police report accusing her of financial abuse. He holds up the messages, Michael's text to me, each one more desperate than the last. These are his own words, Your Honor. I made a mistake. I love you. This can all be fixed. He's not denying what he did. He's just angry that it didn't work. Judge Horowitz looks over at Michael. Something flickers across her face. Disgust, maybe, or just the bone-deep tiredness of someone who's seen too much human selfishness. Mr. Patterson's attorney, the judge says, your client appears to have committed fraud, theft, and marital abandonment. Miss Patterson appears to have protected herself appropriately by following the advice of her grandmother's legal counsel. I fail to see how any of this supports his claim to her inherited assets. Michael's attorney tries one more argument about community property principles, but the judge cuts him off. This hearing is not about community property. This is about a man who tried to steal from his wife and is now angry that he failed. The temporary restraining order is granted. Mr. Patterson is to have no contact with Miss Patterson except through counsel. He is prohibited from liquidating any additional assets. The case will proceed to full discovery and trial preparation. She bangs her gavel. It's over. Michael's face goes white. For a second, he looks like he might say something, might jump up and do something dramatic. But his attorney grabs his arm, whispers something to him, and he just sits there, staring at the table. I don't feel triumphant. I feel hollowed out. Outside the courtroom, David shakes my hand. "That was the easy part," he says. "Now comes the real fight. The settlement negotiations, the division of the house, fighting over who pays for what. But you won today." He knows the trust is untouchable. He knows his plan failed. My parents wrap their arms around me. Jennifer's crying. I'm not crying. I'm just tired. 3 months later, we're in mediation. Michael has hired a new attorney, a woman named Susan Klein who's somehow more aggressive than the last guy. They're pushing for 50% of the house equity and arguing that Michael should be entitled to spousal support because I'm now worth $35 million and he'll never be able to match that. David laughs, actually laughs. "Your Honor," he says to the mediator, "my client's husband abandoned the marriage, stole from her, filed for divorce without notification, and committed fraud. He's now asking that she pay him indefinitely because she had the good fortune to inherit from her grandmother. The audacity is breathtaking." "He was a devoted husband for 8 years, Michael's attorney counters. "He contributed to the marital property. He supported her career." "He supported her career while secretly planning to steal from her," David says coldly. "He was a devoted husband until he wasn't. The moment he decided she wasn't useful to him anymore, he was gone, and he took what he could grab on his way out the door." The mediator, a tired man named Gerald Foster, rubs his temples. "Let's talk numbers," he says. It takes 4 more sessions, but eventually Michael agrees to accept $210,000 for his half of the house equity, paid within 30 days. He gets no spousal support. He gets nothing from the trust. He gets his personal belongings and the 401k he accrued during the marriage, which is relatively modest. In exchange, he gives up any claim to my inheritance and agrees to a permanent restraining order that prohibits contact except through attorneys regarding the property settlement. When David tells me the final agreement, I feel something release inside me. "He's gone," I say. "He's gone," David confirms. I buy out his portion of the house and keep the colonial with the white shutters. I hire a new security system. I change the locks. And then I sit in my empty house with Duke curled up next to me, and I cry, not from pain, but from the strange release of it being over. 6 months later, I'm sitting in Patricia's office with new paperwork. I've restructured the trust. I've set up a charitable foundation in my grandmother's name. I've hired a financial advisor who isn't trying to manipulate me, and I've started something new. "Tell me about this project," Patricia says, reviewing the documents. "It's a nonprofit," I say, "for women going through divorce. Free legal consultations, financial counseling, housing assistance, women who can't afford a David Chen but need one." Patricia looks up from the papers, and there's something like pride in her expression. "Your grandmother would have loved that," she says. "I know," I say. "That's why I'm doing it." Michael called once, about 8 months after the divorce was finalized. Jennifer screened the call, heard him asking if I'd reconsider, if we could work things out. I never called him back. I didn't need to. There was nothing left to say. The last I heard, he'd moved to Denver. He got remarried 18 months after our divorce was final. I don't know if his new wife knows about what he did to me. I don't know if he's changed, or if he's just waiting for the next opportunity. And honestly, I don't care. What I know is this: my grandmother knew. Somehow she saw something in Michael that I couldn't see yet, and she protected me anyway. And when everything fell apart, when the man I loved revealed himself to be someone capable of abandoning me in a hospital bed, I had the resources to fight back. Not everyone does, so I'm using mine to help the ones who don't. Duke walks over and rests his head on my knee. I run my fingers through his fur and think about that hospital room, about the moment when I realized everything was a lie. It still hurts sometimes, but it doesn't define me anymore. What defines me now is what I did after, and that I can live with.